A huge welcome to this fifth instalment of IoD99 Bites and to a rather chilly IoD garden. It's only a 4-week day this week and already there's been quite a lot going on. Although sitting here I'm kind of reminded of a Simon and Garfunkel song of which my dad was a massive fan and I was brought up on a diet of them. And I do very much feel like I'm a bookend on a park bench at this moment in time. So as I said, there has been a bit going on this week, from oil changer Uber to potential foreign influence in the EU referendum, and Barclays kindly providing yet another case study for future business books on crisis management. To give us a little bit more of an insight into some of these areas and the other important issues that have come up this week with a focus on business and particularly startups, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Jamie, who is Head of Tech and Entrepreneurship Policy at the IoD, and a fantastic IoD99er, James, who is from Keystone Wealth Management. Jamie, over to you.
Thanks very much, Alex. As Alex said, my name's Jamie. I'm the Head of Entrepreneurship and Tech Policy at the IoD. And what I'm going to do is quickly run through some of the headline stories of the week, both in politics and for startups as well. And then I'm going to ask James a little bit about his business and what are some of the key challenges for him as well. So I think the first thing to say is, I know Alex ran through some of the stories of the week in brief, but in political terms, this has actually been a fairly slow week. You know, it's the Easter holidays, it's a 4-day week. People are quite rightly taking advantage of that. But what this does have a knock-on effect on is that it provides very little in the way of really exciting headlines, especially from a political point of view. I think obviously that's unless you're looking at the Syria conflict and you're looking at kind of rising tensions in the Middle East between Russia and the US, but it's probably not something that is relevant for IoD99 Bites. So if we just run into some of the political stories of the week, what Easter week and the Easter holidays tend to be about is that they're an opportunity really for opposition parties to get their voice heard and to come up with some really eye-catching policy announcement, usually because there's a bit of a lull in news elsewhere. And we've seen Jeremy Corbyn really taking full advantage this week, and he's come up with some, what I think he hopes will be some fairly headline-grabbing announcements. And we saw from Labour head office over the last few days an announcement that Labour will look to try and raise the minimum wage to about £10, or to £10 even, not even about. And they're also going to look to make sure there are free school meals for all, and they're going to fund that from a hike in VAT on private school fees. They've also taken aim at late payments this week, and Jeremy Corbyn called out some household names in the UK in a fairly controversial way yesterday. But I think the reality is that late payments are a massive issue for small businesses up and down the country. They always sit at the top of the priority list. So I think he's hoping that he'll get a fair amount of traction in Labour heartlands amongst small businesses in particular with this announcement. I think, again, the reality is for Labour, they've got an enormous mountain to climb if they're even going to keep their heads above water at the local elections, which are coming along next month. And they're about 19 points, I think 19 points behind the Tories in the polls at the moment, which is really as low as they've ever been, or as low as they've been for a hell of a long time. So I think Jeremy Corbyn will be hoping that he's going to reignite Labour support in some of their traditional heartlands with some of these announcements, which frankly wouldn't have looked out of place under an Ed Miliband administration either, but maybe that's, I think, a story for another day. If I look to the business side of things for a second, I think probably one of the interesting stories from a startup point of view that we've seen this week is there's been a big question mark over whether or not London is going to maintain its position as the sort of jewel in the crown of fintech's world, as a jewel in the crown of fintech environments worldwide, I suppose. And we've seen particularly one of the UK's top fintechers, a guy called Tarvet Henricus, who is the co-founder of TransferWise, come out and question whether or not fintech founders are still going to see London as the sort of first stop along the road to founding a really successful fintech business. And for him, the questions are quite similar really to the rest of the startup community. You know, are you as a fintech founder going to be able to access a consumer market of 500 million people once we leave the EU, and particularly as well, are you going to be able to access the kind of talent that you've been able to access up to this point once sort of migration rules change, once we come out of the EU? And I think this is actually a particularly important point, and it's a concern that's very acutely felt in the digital and tech sectors in particular, because they tend to be more heavily reliant on foreign labour and foreign skills than most other sectors. And as a case in point, if we've seen over the last 6 years, 50% of the growth in employment in the digital and tech sectors has come from foreign-born workers. So this is a question that the IoD is certainly going to be asking the government, and I think will be on everyone's mind. certainly right to bring it up. Now, as Alex said, this is a great opportunity really for us to be able to showcase some of the fantastic talent that we have in the IoD99, and we're delighted to be joined by James Carson-Lee, who is going to talk to us a little bit about Keystone Wealth Management, about how he founded it, what their kind of raison d'etre is, and also I'm going to ask him some questions about what some of the key challenges have been for him. So Jason, if you'd like to, James even, sorry Jason, if you'd like to run us through some of your, a little bit about your business.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much, guys, for having me on. Really appreciate the IoD for bringing me here as well.
No worries.
It's been quite wonderful so far. The puns have been excellent behind the scenes. So Keystone itself is a independent mortgage and protection brokerage firm. What we do is we bring the experience of the older generations with some of the guys that we've already got, they won't mind me saying, and some of the younger guys who are actually bringing new ideas and technologies in. So we use a lot of social media. We use remote access, so things such as if we've got a client who's based up in Grimsby or somebody down in Brighton, we can deal with all these people and we can deal with them quickly.
Sure.
This takes away the old-fashioned models of face-to-face handshakes and suits. As you can tell, this is normally my day-to-day wear, excuse the socks. However, this is the sort of, we've gone from being the experts per se, now to the friendly guys who you can go to for real independent advice. So a lot of our clients, we can meet them down the pub. We've made some of our better clients from just meeting them out and about, and one of the reasons we're out in the IoD is this exact reason.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask in particular about the model for your business as well, because I understand that as a group you're all also self-employed.
Yep.
And obviously I think the rise in self-employment has been something which has been near the top of the headlines for quite a long time now in the UK. It's probably been driven by some questions around the rise of the gig economy. But what we do know is that about 15% of the whole UK workforce now is self-employed, and as it's an increasing trend, it would be useful to know what some of the key challenges I think were for you about becoming self-employed, and what sort of advice you would give to others who are thinking about the same career option.
Yeah, I mean, to firstly address how our business structure works, we've got effectively 12 separate individuals, all specialists in all different areas. So the benefit of that is I could have a client who comes to me and says, I want something to do with pensions. This is not my bag at all. No. So instead of me having to have some way of struggling not be able to service that client, I could pass it to one of my colleagues who's just straight on the ball. It's what he does day in, day out. And he's his own entity, but I'm my own entity. But as far as the client's concerned, they have the exact same service from the same company. So it's similar to an old school banking model in the fact that you'd have different specialists in the building, but you've got an independent view, rather than not stuck to one product we have to push. There's no sales in it per se, it's just good solid advice. And the challenge of being self-employed, really, I came from an employed background, was made redundant, could have quite easily dropped into another employed role. However, looking at the way that the economy was going at the time, and the main thing for me was the freedom of it. Now, there's a negativity to freedom, and the negativity behind the freedom is the fact that all of a sudden you're on your own. There's no structure. You've got no place to go to. You could be sat one day in front of your in your breakfast room, tapping on a laptop, thinking that is my day of work. So you've really got to discipline yourself and have the structure throughout your week, as if you were your own boss. So that's the best piece of advice I give someone. And manage yourself if you're your own employee.
There's a slightly controversial debate going on at the moment about what is it that incentivizes people to move into self-employment. Is it the tax treatment? And there's a big debate at the moment around whether or not national insurance contributions should rise for the self-employed to match kind of employees' national insurance contributions, or is it around the flexibility and autonomy that self-employment offers? And for you, what was the key driver on those terms?
For me, I would say it was the fact that I can. It was the freedom aspect of it. It was the autonomy side of it. So I can very, very quickly be flexible and move from one. If, for example, there's a huge policy change, I can move with the times very, very quickly. And being a small mobile unit, rather than being part of, when I was at the time, in a large corporation, very slow burn, and you can feel the impact of that. If, for example, there's a change in policy or a change in the savings rate, then you can feel the impact of it, whereas you personally can't.
Great, James, thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts with us. I'm going to pass back to Alex just to round up for us.
Jamie, thank you very much indeed for that, and also thank you all for watching. If you are not already a member of the IoD99, please do join it. It is a fantastic network. It is a sort of Alcoholics Anonymous for entrepreneurs. We've got about 1,400 founders already within the network, and we are growing day on day. So it's a great network to be a part of. Let us know what you think of this video. Please comment, share about it, etc. And it just remains for me to say, have a fantastic Easter. Do make sure you all relax. It's important to have some downtime. And we look forward to seeing you for our 6th installment of IoD99 Bites next week.